Hi guys, it's Doc from the Gold Hog, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Gold Hog. And the Gold Hog is really where the name came from, because when a couple of my friends saw this machine, they said it looks like a pig. So I got thinking, and I said, you know what? I said, you're right. It kind of looks like a hog, pig, and then the name came up, and that's where this came from, because it kind of looks like a wild pig. It looks like a hog. It's kind of beefy and squatty. But today I'm going to talk to you about this unit, and this is the first video shoot we've ever done with the unit as a finished model. We've done some shooting prototype wise, but never with the actual finished model. This is my unit. I've actually used this unit in the field. This one is not brand new. It actually has a little bit of use on it. And then I've also got some prototypes and all kinds of stuff sitting over here that I'm going to bring in and show you real quick. But here's my problem. I'm trying to get the lighting right so you can see this, so if I squint a little bit, you'll know why. I'm also sitting low, so man, he looks short today. Well, it's because I'm sitting low so I can get this unit up high so you can actually see it. And then I'm going to go over what the machine can do, and it's pretty amazing. But here's one of my problems. One of my problems is this thing has so many features and benefits on it that trying to run through them all would probably take about 5 hours, so I'm going to move fast. You know I'm not short on words, so I can't drag this out because we'll be here all day. This machine blows my mind. That's all I'm going to say. It continually does things that we never thought of, and that's the interesting point. What I'm going to tell you today is probably only a few things that it can do that once it gets into the field, we have several people that already want it, including some commercial mines. They're going to discover stuff that it can do that we had no idea, because every time we take it out in the field, we find that it can do something else. Understand this. Your Highbanker, I said this before, and I'll say it again. I think your Highbanker equipment is a lot like your spouse. You need to take your time, you need to pick it carefully, and it needs to be a good fit for you. Is this the right fit for everyone? No, this isn't the right fit for everyone. But I think it's the most, I will make this claim. And we're not one, you know us, that we're not ones big on making claims. This unit is the most versatile unit that I've ever seen or ever worked with. That's what I will say. Is it the absolute best at recovering gold? I don't know. I haven't used every unit out there. Is it the smallest unit? No, it's not the smallest. Is it compact? Yeah, it's pretty compact the way that we designed it. So you got to look at this and you got to match this up to yourself. Does this fit my needs? Do the features and benefits match up with what I'm looking for? Price point. We also try to hit a certain price point. I want it to be comparable to more of an entry-level unit, but with many, many more times features. That was my goal. The hard part with doing that is that these machines are all custom made. This is not mass produced. Let's get that point across right now. Majority of the time when you're buying a Highbanker, especially from big companies, they'll run hundreds, if not thousands of them. They'll punch them, they'll punch them, they'll punch them, they'll punch them, then they go through the assembly line. And that's not how this works. If you buy one of these units, we take your order and we send it to our custom fabrication shop. And this custom fabrication shop is good. He's got millions of dollars worth of equipment. This machine is completely laid out inside of a CAD system, computerized. It then goes to the shop. All that stuff is cut out. The majority of all these cuts are done with a plasma machine. Very, very tight specifications. It's all very technical. And then they do part of the assembly work there. Then this machine has to come back to our shop, and then we take it into our shop and we have about 4 to 5 hours worth of work, finishing, assembly, mats, all kinds of stuff that has to go on with this. So the problem with this is, number one, it's custom made for you. When you place an order, we make your machine for you, nobody else. Then it comes here and we have to finish the machine. So I'm going to go over that real quickly too. We had thought about offering it as a kit where you did the finishing, but I'm concerned that a lot of people will do it wrong or they might get hurt. So that's why now we decided just to go with the finished unit on it. So let's talk about construction real quick. The entire unit is made 100% of aluminum. It's made of 0.08, which is, you really would say, some people say it's 12 gauge aluminum. It's more like a 13. It's in between a 14 and a 12. but 0.08 aluminum. So it's real heavy duty aluminum. It does not want to bend. And it had to be that with these sidewalls on it. So it's good, strong, thick aluminum. The legs, we use a swivel bracket underneath it that has an L bracket support under it, so you can swivel the legs back and forth. We did not use shiny legs on it. We used the regular steel legs on it because, and I'll explain this more in a minute, but I must just explain it now. You might want to change your legs. You can just go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and this is just 1/2 inch aluminum. You might want long legs, because if you put long legs up here, it'll sort of support all these trays, which don't come out anyways. But you might want shorter legs. So we make the legs. The legs are real inexpensive. It's the cheapest thing on this unit. We just make them straight with a teeny bit of a bend at the end of them so that they dig outward. And of course, because you want to set this unit as low as you can to the ground. You do not want a big bending setup on this with the legs, because you want this unit as low as possible. I try and get this unit, this has a discharge port on the back of it, and I try and get that discharge port facing the creek or facing my hole or whatever I'm doing, and I just get it just about 1 inch or 2 over the ground. So that means that this puts this at about 39 inches. I've got it way up on a stand here, and I'm sitting on a bucket. It puts the highest that you can get this at about 39 inches. You can drop this down if you want to take this tray off and flip it and just use 2 trays. It'll drop it down to about 30 inches. And then if you want to do 1 tray, it'll drop it down to like 22 inches. So it's very, very low. So you can choose it. Again, you can choose the number of trays that you want to use. It's up to you. The construction, getting back to the construction, initially we had the units welded. And here's my concern about that. I'm a simplistic guy. And what you're going to learn about this machine is I kept simplifying it and simplifying it and simplifying it. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make it easier to repair, easier to fix, so that anybody could do it. Because I'm an idiot, I need to be able to fix it. So we went away from the welding and we went to a strapping system where we rivet the whole thing. So for $9 you can buy a rivet gun, 1/8 inch rivets, and if you're ever out in the field and anything breaks, if you have to take it apart for any reason, you just put the rivets back in and pop, a 3-cent rivet. And that was important to me. I wanted to be able to, I said, who the heck can weld aluminum? I can't. So I said, let's get rid of all the welding on the machine. Let's make it all riveted. So this whole thing is riveted together. Trust me, it makes a big difference. Next, on the width of it is 10 inches wide. So you have a 10-inch sluice bed. And the reason why we made it 10 inches is because you'll notice, we might show you some footage sometime of us doing a clean out. You just take one of these trays, you put it in a bucket, it stands right up in a 5-gallon bucket, and you can just spray that out and put it right back in. You don't have to take the mats out. If you want to do a real quick cleanup, just empty it out. Just take a bucket or take a hose, pop it in a tray, spray it, get the next one, spray it, next one, spray it, put it back together, and keep running. And that's what I like. That's my semi-cleanup. It's not a full cleanup. But what I do is I just clean out all that black sand out of there and clean out the gold in it about every 2 hours. I just spray it down, let it all run out into a bucket, put it back together. Have I gotten out of the gold out of it? No, I haven't, but I don't have to worry about it with this matting. So it's a semi-cleanup that we're able to do. And you're able to do that in less than 5 minutes. You're able to take it all apart, put it in buckets, spray it, put it all back together, boom, start running again. The principle behind this machine is come up with a machine that can process a huge amount of materials, is very effective at capturing gold and heavies, and be able to run more and more and more dirt. It's sort of a bridge between recreational prospecting in a traditional sluice and commercial mining. And where that sort of comes from is it came from me working with commercial mines, and you see these big bulldozers come up dumping a huge scoop into this, this big trommel, and you're thinking to yourself, dude, I got to move some more dirt. And that's where this came from. I'm a mover. If you tell me to sit down and classify material, I'm out of here. I'm done. I do this for fun. And I want to run and gun. So I want to be able to take dirt and just dump it into this thing and dump it in this thing. And I want to move as much material as possible with the knowledge that I know I got a machine that can capture and effectively process all the material. That's where this comes from. So let's go ahead and let's talk to you about what happens with this machine. All right, so you have a header box here, and I'm going to show that to you in a minute, but you have a header box here, and inside the header box, you're going to have a melting tray, and the melting tray is pointed this direction. You have water intakes here, and the water intakes sprayed on the melting tray. You drop the material into the box, the material sort of gets sprayed and melts. It'll sit on that tray until it's sort of melted. It falls off that melting tray, and then it hits a kick plate in the back of the box. This kick plate, so it does not exit this box. This kick plate then starts the material moving forward across this top. There are no holes all the way till you get up to about here. So this is a solid slick plate. And if you know anything about our research, you know that gold settles how fast. It settles within seconds, split seconds. A millimeter of gold will drop 48 inches through water in 1 second. So if you drop gold into here, bang, it's settled. It's on the bottom. As soon as it starts to move forward, your gold is settled. I don't know if you believe me or not, but we've recorded this on video, so I'm just telling you our research, and this is why this unit is set up this way. So then we have the stripping holes, and we start our stripping holes here. We used to not strip to the end, and we said, no, the gold's already settling right in here, let's strip it. So we strip, and we strip, and then we have a massive stripping section down here. There's very little surface area at the end, so a lot of the material gets stripped. And what we're doing is, if you think about this, let's say you have 1.5 inches of water, slurry, running through your box. Where's the gold? Where's the gold and where's the black sand in that 1.5 inches? After all this travel, coming down and driving along here, where is that? Where are all the heavies? And all the heavies are on the lower, let's say 1/4. They may not be exactly on the bottom, but they're real close to the bottom. And that's what this machine does. It works on that principle that we only want the heaviest materials running through our system. Got that? So we strip the heavies, strip the heavies, strip the heavies, massively strip the heavies. So we keep increasing the stripping, and we're pulling from the bottom down. So we're pulling, all the light stuff is up on top that won't settle. So you've got clay, you've got mica, you've got just general silt that's floating by, and the heavy stripped down. And what's really, people say, well, that's too fast. Well, if you watch it, what's really cool about some of this footage, when you see it working, is that the mix will be solid mud as it hits here and as it starts to move forward. And what ends up happening is that water gets clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. And when it comes off the end, the water is pretty clear. So that tells you what? That you're removing sediment from that. And the sediment and water, only the heaviest, are dropping into this first tray right here. Got that? Okay, so this is the skimming tray. Now there's also a separate tray here, and what we added this later on so that when material skims up higher, it doesn't drop into this tray early. It actually follows this tray and everything dumps right at the end. So all that material that's been pulled dumps at the end here and goes into tray number 1. Now this is processing tray number 1. You can put whatever matting you want inside of it. So it drops into this. I run mine with a scrubber mat on tray number 1. So it runs through the scrubber mat, comes all the way down here, and at the last minute, it's going to dump again. So it dumps again and dumps into tray number 2. So it jumps into tray number 2. Now it works on here. A lot of times what I'll have my UR mat in here, or a UR mat with expanded metal on top. Then it reaches tray number 3, and then I go back to a scrubber mat. And I go back to my scrubber, and it runs through the scrubber mat again. Now on this tray, this is the only tray that's different from the other two. This has that rear exit hole. So the rear exit hole, all the material exits out the rear exit hole. So when you're running this system, you're going to see 2 water exits. If you're running it as a high production Highbanker, you're going to have about 80% of your water, depending on how you angle this, about anywhere from 70 to 90% of your water will fall into this first tray. So you'll have about 10-20% of your water fall off here. Large rocks will fall off here, and anything that's light will come off here as well. Everything else, the holes that you'll see, I think the largest hole is 3/8 of an inch. We varied them from 1/4 to 3/8. So the largest piece of rock or anything that enters in this is 3/8 of an inch. So it's self-auto-classifying. And I want to make that clear. This isn't a grizzly box with rails on it where stuff drops through. This is a complete, it's almost like a trommel. This is kind of like putting a trommel on top of your sluice. And let me explain why too, because when material drops in here, we're dropping boulders that are bigger than our fist. We're dropping 4-inch, 5-inch boulders. We just dig right in and we just dump it. We do pull out, if there's any massive ones, we pull them out. But what happens is all those rocks drop in here, they all get washed, they all fall off here, you'll hear it bang, 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 you'll hear it crashing around, coming through here, and you see these big rocks, everything falling off the end here. But what we've effectively done is we've created like a D-rocker or a trommel situation where everything is being washed. And when those rocks come off of here, guess what? You can pick them up and they're clean. They're absolutely clean when they come off of here. It's the first time that you'll probably see that in a self-classifying high banker, because they fall through here, they get washed, and they're tumbling and they're getting washed, and when they come off here, it's clean. This machine's great if you have gems in your area, because your gemstones come off perfectly clean and you can see them. And you may even see us running this. Sometimes we'll put a little cage out here with a bucket under it, and we'll let the rocks fall into a bucket so we can inspect them for gems. And we find rubies, amethysts, emeralds, whenever we go up to North Georgia or North Carolina. And that's a really cool trick on this. So of course people say, well, how do I know that all the gold is going in there? Well, if you don't believe it, you can dig a hole right here or put a bucket on the exit, let all that material fall in there, and then every hour or 2 hours, dig that hole out and gently run that material back through if you don't think it's got all the gold. We haven't done a whole lot of testing on that, but the testing that we've done is almost zero gold leaves this tray right here. I mean, it's almost nothing can get by those powerful skimming, because you'll see the way that the pattern goes, the gold would have to jump a straight line coming across. It comes across here and it'd have to jump a straight line, plus it has to drop a long oval line. And I'll probably put that up on the screen so you can see that now. You can see where there is a square section and that there is an oval section. There's no way for it to jump it. And trust me, we've been through, it's got to be at least 10 of these skimming trays to get the best, to get the right amount of water pull, and to make sure that nothing can jump those holes, that it has to go in. And sometimes it looks like an ooze. If you're in a real black sand area, it'll almost look like an ooze that's coming out of the bottom of this. It's really cool. So that's how the unit works as a high banker. So what's inside of these trays? We put it with options, and this is a beautiful thing about this again. You run whatever you want. If you want to run all riffles with miner's moss, you do it. If you want to run vortex with expanded, you do it. You put whatever you want inside these trays. It's 10 inches wide. So just about everything that's on the market is available, all kinds of riffles and everything for a 10-inch sluice, because it's so standard. That's another reason why we made it 10 inches. We send it out with several different things. We send it out with scrubber mats and UR mats. I think we send it out, I'm not positive, but I think we send it out with 2 scrubbers and 2 URs. So you can change it around and you'll understand why we send 4 versus 3 in a minute. But we also send it out with what we call the steroid vortex matting. And steroid vortex, and I think if you've seen any of my other videos recently, I think I've talked about it. This is normal vortex. Come on, get in your face. All right, so this is normal vortex, okay? And now I'm going to show you steroid vortex. And there's steroid vortex. And you can see the difference between the two is the blue, or the steroid vortex, is about twice the size of the black. And we recommend the blue. Now, is it more expensive? Yes, it's about 3 times what this is. It's very expensive. But again, we want the system to be effective, and I just got to the point where I said, if someone can't afford this, they can't afford it, I need to send out what works. So we put the blue vortex in there, which is the steroid vortex. And you'll understand that in a minute too. So, I did want to show you this. This is one of the older prototypes, the header boxes that we had. But you can also see that you're using it as a high banker, and now you can also use it as a dredge. So I've got a dredge attachment on here, and you can get those around. Joby makes them, several people make them, but you can do whatever you want. This is a 2-inch nozzle. You can go 2.5, you can go 3. You just have to, if you go larger than your 2, I think it is, you have to make a larger hole inside here. So if you want a 3-inch dredge, you'll have to go ahead and make a larger hole in here for the dredge, which is not a problem. You can even put the larger hole below this one if you want. So you can put it in here. And what ends up happening is it ends up it ends up shooting, the water ends up shooting into here and running down the kick plate just like this system. So the same thing, the same thing, while you're dredging, none of your big rocks are going into this. You just dredge away. Only the gold and small, and man, it works really well. Great water flow, great skimming action. And when you're dredging, of course, your slurry is just barely dirty because it's like anywhere from a 5 to a 20% material mixture. So when it comes off, it's funny to watch a dredge, and I'll probably show that right now. But you'll watch as we're dredging, the water starts off a little bit murky and then it gets super, super clear by the time it exits. I mean, it looks like drinking water. So you can see that all that material is being sucked down in. It's a really cool thing to watch. So you use it as a high banker, you can set it up as a dredge. Now someone says, well, that's awfully high for a dredge. Well, again, it's 39 inches. Now what you can do is you can take away a tray. Or if you don't want to use the skimming tray, this box right here will sit inside this box right here. Understand? So this box would now flip around. Sorry. So this box would now flip around and sit inside here like this. So you dropped it down, what, a good 12 inches? So now your hose only has to come up to here, which is probably about 20 or so inches, which is kind of normal standard for a high banker / dredge combo. So if you want to just dredge straight into this, you can dredge straight into this. Now, the next thing that we learned that then, after that, it can be turned into a super concentrator. This was only discovered recently. Someone was out playing with it and said, hey, why and why not? So what we do is we cover up all the skimming holes, we cover all those up with a sheet of Vortex. So now what we do is on the back, you're going to see, and I'll show this here probably in a second, you're going to see that the machine has 1.1/8 inch barbed water receptacles. There's 2 of them. So what you can do now is you can hook up whatever pumps you want. If you want to hook up 2 1100s, then you hook up 2 1100s. I run 2 2000, so I run 4000 as a super concentrator. And you're going to say, well, that's kind of high, isn't it? I'll show you in a minute. So now what we do is we cover up the skimming tray with all Vortex. And we do what's called a full dump. That's where I got to stand up. So now when I do my full dump, what I do is I just simply, instead of having any water come off this end, all I'm going to do is I'm going to move my tray back. And because I moved my tray back, now I have a gap sitting here. So I'm going to put a whole sheet of Vortex inside here. This whole tray falls under the Vortex or UR. Actually, we put UR in the first one. And it runs down here and all the material dumps into tray number 1. Then it dumps down into tray number 2, tray number 3, whatever. And this is the way I go. I go UR mat, Vortex, UR mat, Vortex. And sometimes I'll put the black Vortex and blue Vortex. So now I'm running it with 4,000 gallons an hour as a super concentrator. And I'm running this over a huge amount of matting. So you're talking about roughly 30, 30, 30, and 30. Okay, so 120 inches of matting in a super concentrator. And we ran, the last test we did, we ran 800 pieces of gold, all the way down from 1/8 of an inch down to -100, 800 pieces in a 5-gallon bucket, and we had 1 loss, and it was about a -50, and it just blew our minds. We said, it works, and it works really well. So now you've got your super concentrator. Now, one thing I didn't address, but I need you to understand this, and it's a little complex, so stick with me. All right, now this is going to get a little confusing because I got to talk about the angles, and I got to talk about velocity. So you got to stick with me. Most people take a look at this and they say, okay, well, it's slanted here and it's straight here, and you got to understand that's not what it is. Both of these are both angled. So you have 2 angles. These are both slanted. It's kind of deceiving. When the machine is set up right, when it's balanced and normal, these slots right here are parallel with the ground. Understand that. So these slots are parallel with the ground, the middle of this. This is sloped and this is sloped. So both sides of the tray are sloped at an angle. And it has to be that way. And this was the longest hurdle I had. And you should have seen me cutting cardboard and stacking it and trying to figure it out. And I literally did that for a long time. What happens is water comes down here and it's set at an angle. It's roughly a 1.5 per foot pitch. So you got about a 1.5 per inch pitch right here. And then same thing, and it's all the same angle. But here's what you can do with this. You can change each level individually. So now what I can do is I can lower this end of the unit, and this angle will go steeper, okay? So now I'll have a steeper unit. Let's say I have real gravel material and I want a real steep pitch. Okay, well when I raise this level, this tray up, what happens to this one? The angle reduces. You follow me? So if this one, if I'm picking this up, and if I'm increasing the angle up here, up this way on this tray has to follow, and so this tray comes up, and so there's less of an angle. So now you can base your matting on velocities, which is really cool. So it comes through here, the first tray will be a lower velocity because it's going to be more level. So it's going to be running here versus such angle. So I'm going to have a lower velocity. Well, this tray, the second one, is going to follow the upper one. So now this is going to be at a higher angle and a steeper pitch and a higher velocity. This one is going to be a little bit lower too. So that's how I set up my matting systems. Once I get out, if I know where I'm going, if I've been there before, if I know my water flow, I know what my pitch is, I know I'm going to have this a little bit steeper or a little bit less steep, and I know which one. I might just run it all flat and put all scrubber in it, let's say. But let's say I wanted to have one tray or something that had some real velocity. So what I might do is I might pitch this up. This would be scrubber because it's going to be a lower velocity or vortex. And then I'm going to have my UR mat with expanded metal because this tray is going to have a lot more velocity. Then it's going to drop in here and be more settled with less velocity. You got to follow that. So you can change this around, and every tray you can adjust velocities on and use different mattings in. Okay, so now I hope you're not confused. I told you this is going to get really in-depth. But the other thing about this is now we use this as a super concentrator, and you say, well, how can you run 4,000 gallons an hour through as a super concentrator? Well, it's because I put UR mat up here at a steeper pitch, and then I put vortex matting at less of a pitch, then I go back to UR, and then I go back to vortex. So the vortex can handle the higher water flow. It's the velocity that makes a difference in an active mat. So I want my UR mat to be more active, higher exchange. I increase the pitch. The vortex mat less, so I put that in that one. And then I run it through, and that's how I do it. So I hope that makes sense. So we've gone from a Highbanker to a dredge to a super concentrator. But then just 2 weeks ago, someone asked, why not? And here's another cool thing that we just discovered. I'm going to show you something off an old prototype. And we didn't realize this for a while, but I'm going to show you the skimming tray. And I think the whole series is pretty close. So you can get a pretty good view of it. But I want you to look at a difference. You're going to see there's a kick plate that was covering up a portion of this tray, okay? And you're going to see what the tray originally looked like. Then you're going to see what the tray looked like after we ran a bunch of material through it all day long with the rocks pounding on it and the gravel. So here it is. It's pretty cool. I hope you can see this. So you can see that this is the area that was protected, and this is the area right in here that's been just hammered to death, almost sandblasted by the material. And you can definitely see the line difference, but the feel, this is real slippery like a slick plate, and then it goes to almost like fine sandpaper. And it's a beautiful finish. It really is. I mean, you'd pay someone to do that finish for you. But guess what it feels like? It almost feels like a Miller table. Sort of an aggravated Miller table. So someone said, well, why don't we try running this as a Miller table? In other words, sand all the aluminum and run it as a Miller table. I said, that's not a bad idea. So we did that. So we sanded it. By the way, there's the skimmer tray, which I don't know if I've shown that or not, but that's what the skimmer tray looks like. So when I took a look at the sanding on it and I felt it, and I said, well, it just doesn't feel the same as that. And then one day, I was at Lowe's and I saw this. I saw truck bed coating. Let me show it to you. This is made by Rust-Oleum, and it's truck bed. And it is a rubberized, durable, abrasion resistant, non-skid finish. Well, guess what happens? It comes out feeling like a rough chalkboard or a very fine sandpaper, and it's rubberized. So what we did was we went in and we sprayed the bottom of our trays with this, and it's amazing. It feels just like a aggressive Miller table. So what we did next was we played with, and we're still playing with, we haven't refined this yet. So now what we do is we take our slick tray and we put a V-rib matting in that. So in my first tray, I'm just putting regular V-rib matting. Now this is for finding when you're down to black sand and gold. That's it. You're panning and panning, or however you're doing it. You're trying to get the gold out of the black sand. It's a bunch of mud. So now what I do is this whole tray becomes this. I do a full dump, and then what I do is I dump it into here, dump it into here, dump it into here, and now I have 30, 1, 2, 3, I have about 80 inches of Miller table to work with now. So, and we're still messing with the flow rate on this, but what we can do, what's nice about it, is I can make this real steep for the V-rib and make the material really zip over this, catch a lot of the big gold in here. Then it comes into here on a lower, slower velocity. The water just slowly travels and washes, dumps a little bit steeper and a little bit slower. So we can turn this into a final processing for fine gold as well too. Then I shut the water off. Once I shut the water off, I can look and I can take the fine gold out. Now we haven't done a bunch of testing on that final. This is just brand new to us. But again, this is a machine that has just simply amazed us. And I know it's going to continue to amaze us, because I go from high banking to dredging to a super concentrator to a final cleanup machine for my gold. It's just kind of blown us away. So we just love it. We're using this thing all the time now. So now I wanted to talk to you about one more feature of it, and you might even see this in some of the footage. But the nice thing about this unit is you can dredge and high bank at the same time. Because when I hook up my dredge nozzle to the back here, I'm gonna have a bunch of water, probably more water than I do high banking, coming into the box and running through this. I can have another person be digging up ground and bringing buckets over and feeding buckets into the top of this while the other person's dredging. You understand? It's one of the only systems I know of that allows you to high bank and dredge at the same time. So if you got 2 or 3 people going out to the field and you got one person that's dredging, what are the other people doing? You know, put a shovel in their hand. Put a shovel in their hand and have them start working some areas near the bank. We don't dig banks out, but have them dig some areas near the bank, or maybe there's some large boulders. Have them dig out behind the large boulders. Bring that material, run it through while the other person's dredging. And again, the system doesn't overload because of the skimming tray. You're only bringing in 3/8 of an inch or less heavy material into the system. It's just phenomenal. It's an amazing machine. I can't say it enough. Real quick, let me go ahead and talk to you about the hose systems in this. All right. Before I talk to you about the hose system in this, I do want to show you a couple quick neat little features. This is your skimming tray. This is your header box. All the material comes out here. But one thing that's nice about it is it's all attached through wing nuts. Very simple. Simplicity is the key. But then this header unit will tip right up. So if you want to clean out under here, or if you need to inspect, or if you need to do something under here, this whole header unit will lift right up. It comes right back down, tighten up your wing nuts, and then it won't move, or you can leave them loose. But you can remove this header box, like I said, put it over here with the water discharge here, and now you can run it without the skimmer tray. So if you say, well, I don't think that skimmer tray is going to get all the gold for me, which it does, then fine, then don't run it with the skimmer tray. Maybe you're working in an area that has a bunch of fine gold, you found a pocket, I want to make sure it all gets in. Great, switch this around, don't use the skimmer tray, feed it right into the 3 trays. Now you got 1, 2, 3 trays working, no skimming, you do your own classification. I'm not doing classification, that's why I made this machine. But real quickly, I wanted to show you the head, and this is where we get into the simplicity issue. I kept removing stuff from this product, and I want you to understand that. I instead of adding features and little gizmos, I kept removing it, saying simpler, simpler, simpler. I want to be able to go to a small Ace Hardware in the middle of nowhere, and if something breaks, replace it. So we originally normally you'll see a system like this that has, 27 pieces on it with valves and stems and all kinds of stuff and spray bars. We got rid of all that. We don't need it because of the system that we're using, which is a melting tray and crash box. We don't need any of that. So all we do now is we just use some simple pieces of plumbing. And this is 2-inch PVC with a receiver for 2-inch if you want, and I think we include a 1.5-inch for 1.5 lay flat. But this is the PVC on it. It just goes up, it attaches through. Then we have a little spray nozzle at the end that sort of directs the water straight down. Simplicity. And when I'm in the field, I don't even glue these, so I can remove it if I need to. I usually put a little bit of, if you remember rubber cement when you were a kid, you can take rubber cement, just put it on here, and it gets really tight, and it's hard to get apart sometimes. But, if you don't put anything on here, yeah, this might fall off and you're going to get a bath from your hose. So put a little bit of something on there, but I don't like to glue it permanently. And I'll show you that why in a minute too. So this just goes through here, connects on, and you're done. Simplicity. Now here's always been my other issue. Well, where's your pump? My pump is never sitting over here. My pump is always over here or it's back behind me. So my hose kinks up. My lay flat hose is always kinking up. Well, that's why we left this flexible. If you'll notice, this piece moves. So now, if your hose is over there, you just go to your hose over here. If your hose is over there, go to your hose over there. And then you just adjust that inside piece to spray down on your bar. And again, you can use a 2-inch lay flat or 1.5, it doesn't matter. The 2.5 gets a lot more expensive, even though it's probably better for the unit. But you can use 1.5, that's fine. All right, then we have these right here, and these are barbs. These are actually like through-hole fittings for a boat. And it just comes inside, it's just basic holes, receivers, but it receives the 1 1/8-inch bilge hole pumps. And these things are hard to find, believe it or not. Again, if you want to run this in the field on electric, I run it with 2 2,000-gallon pumps. So that's 4,000 GPH going through this. I tilt it down a little bit more. I can run 2 electric pumps on it, and I can work it probably 5-6 hours in the field. I decrease my feed rate just a little bit, but I'm a madman, so for me it's still pretty heavy. So yes, you can run it electric, you don't have to use gas. When I'm really running strong, then we hook up the gas pump 1.5. And again, you want a lot of water coming through here. I like a lot. Some people say, well, what size pump do I need? You can just buy a cheap $199 5 horsepower pump that's like 5,000 or 6,000 gallons, semi-trash rated. That works fine. Hook it up and you're all set. Again, affordability and simplicity when it comes to all these different things. But I did want to show you the inside of the box real quick, and I'll just give you a sneak peek here. So I don't know if there's a better way to do this. So when you have your Highbanker set up, your water's spraying onto your tray here. There's a plate here that if it comes up, it'll wash back down. But all your material falls down this tray and melts, goes down, hits the kick plate, and starts to run out your skimming tray. I guess that's probably the best way to show you that. So that's how the system works. And those are your skimmer holes. Special pattern, again, it took me forever to figure out this pattern on this thing. But I did want to show you inside of the black. And this is the black. This is that spray, and it is cool. I'm excited about this. We did one other set. This is the one I'm doing. This is that truck bed spray by Rust-Oleum. And let me tell you what, I think that'll work really well. We're going to test it out and show you. But you can see from the bottom how the lips are set up. This thing fits in very easily. They just stack right on top of each other. It's not a hard fit. Real rugged. Again, if anything ever breaks in the field, you go to your backpack, pull out your rivet gun, pop them in. and this is how they stack, 1, 2, 3. And again, I don't want to use all 3 trays. You know, I'm a midget, okay? I'm short too. So maybe you just want to run 2. So now, all right, so now I've got the machine set up on a 2 tray unit. So now I'm running this, and it's only this high off the ground. You're dumping it, shoveling into it, and now you've got your slick plate plus 2 trays. I mean, a lot of people say, I don't want to reach up that high and shovel that high. Okay, well, if you have trouble shoveling 30 inches high, then use the 2 trays and use this. It's more compact. One of the reasons why I built it, the size I built it, is because I wanted this top tray to be at my hip level. Because if I have to raise a bucket up beyond that, then I'm not comfortable. So I wanted it close to my hip level where I could just take the bucket and just dump it. And it's very comfortable with 3 trays. As long as you start, that's the key to this thing, start this thing as low as possible to the ground. I did want to show you, and I guess I'll show you on this, we have modified this a little bit. It's kind of hard to see. You say, well, how do the mats stay in? This is a little thumb clip area type thing. It's a metal spring type deal. The mats go right under here. Let me grab a mat. Stupid me, because I painted them, you really can't see them that well, but it's a little stainless steel spring clip, and all that happens is your mat goes under it, and it holds your matting in place. We're making them a little bit wider. If you want to put expanded metal, you can stick your expanded metal here, but I'm making it a little bit wider, and that keeps any water from going under the mat. Lift it up, take your tray out, clean it, clean your mat. Then you're back going. This is the unit. We've had a lot of people request information on it, so I figured I'd go ahead and show you the unit. The entire unit is about 36 pounds with all 3 trays, skimmer, and everything. So if you need to lift it up, I mean, it is aluminum, so you can lift up the whole unit. It's not super heavy. It's 36 pounds. It's just a little bit awkward sometimes, but oh, and I forgot to tell you too, of course. These are side viewing slots. I put these in. Originally we had them, you'll see some of the old footage of the prototypes where you live and learn, but I had the holes all the way down to here. And so what we learned was that there was enough water that we had spillage. So you can see my Gorilla Tape once again. You can see my Gorilla Tape job to keep that water from coming out. So where we used to have on this old prototype, we had holes all the way down. Now we have the 2 holes away from the ends, but it lets you look inside and see what's going on in the system, because I was like, well, how the hell do I know what's going on? Are my trays full? Is everything working? Did my mat fall down? So we put the viewing trays in here. Plus you can also grab the unit from the side if you need to and lift this. So that's the Gold Hog, guys. That's an amazing unit, and I'll probably put up some footage hopefully in between here. You're probably going to see, when some of the footage, you're probably going to see older prototypes that I pop in here. But again, it's a Highbanker, it's a dredge, it's a super concentrator, and then it's a final finishing machine. Are all those steps perfect? We don't know yet. We're still testing it, but it does them all. Will it do more in the future? Yeah, you bet. People are going to figure out what to do with this machine. But it's just, it truly is an amazing machine. We're only doing it custom ordered right now. If you want one, they're going to be in very limited supply. Again, if we start to get bogged down on them, you just have to wait. So I'm guessing from the time someone places an order on one of these to the times we get ready to ship out is probably going to be 10 to 12 business days. So if you're looking for one, there's no way to speed that up. And if people get in front of you, then you're going to have to wait, and we'll post any delay in order times on it as well. But like I said, for the price that we have it at, it's close to where I wanted to be. It's not exactly, it's a little bit more. But I just can't. We were gonna do it as a kit, like I said, and try and keep it below $1,000. But it scares me sending out a kit. There's so many little details that need to be done to it. So I just said, let's just do it. We'll send it out as a final product. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope if you have any questions, just let us know.